Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to my channel. I hope that all of you are doing very well. If you are new to my channel, then do please remember to hit that subscribe button and like and share the video as well. Today we are going to be looking at one of the claims for the duality in revelation to the Prophet Muhammad. This claim supposes that the Prophet did not only receive the Quran, but that he also received a secondary revelation which was to function as a guide to understanding the Quran. And that revelation, of course, is the Sunnah, which is encapsulated in the Hadith literature and also other jurisprudential works. Now, it should come to nobody's surprise that the Quran emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, logic, and reason. Therefore, it becomes even the more important when much of the deen and in extension, the Quran, are used in a way to censor people's God-given right of expression, belief, and free thought. Those who subscribe to the view of a dual revelation typically raise 5 objections when they want to assert that the Hadith or the Sunnah should be considered as revelations in the same light as the Quran. In today's video, we are going to be looking at one of those claims, i.e. the claim that the Quran states in one of its verses that whatever the messenger is to give us, that we are obliged to take from, and whatever he has forbidden us and asked us to refrain from, we are to refrain and abstain from it. Implying that since the Prophet gave us the Sunnah, we are obliged, as per this verse, to follow the Sunnah. However, their justification for this claim fails to take into consideration the context in which the statement has been made. Let us look at the verse and examine it closely or more closely to see whether this argument is actually valid. So the verse reads as follows: ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله ولرسوله ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم وما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتهوا واتقوا الله إن الله شديد العقاب. Whatever God gave to his messenger as spoils of war from the inhabitants of the towns, then it is for God and for the messenger and for the near relatives, the orphans, the poor, and the wayfarer, in order that the wealth does not only circulate amidst the rich among you. Whatever the messenger has given you, take it, and whatever he bids you to abstain from it. Be mindful of God. Surely God is indeed severe at taking retribution. So this verse is from Surah al-Hashr, verse number 7. Looking at the context of the verse, it is quite clear that this verse is in reference to war booty that was collected and was to be distributed among the people in the community. During the time of the Prophet, it was a common custom of battle that when the battle had commenced and had ended, the combatants would take what the enemy had left behind of their belongings, such as horses, camels, swords, clothes, armor, and so much more. In the midst of all this chaos, those who were unlucky to be featured at the back of the battle lines would not have the same opportunity and the same amount of time to collect what they could of the spoils of war. This was also extended to those whose objective was to fire arrows at the enemy. These sorts of people would typically stand at the back of the line and would fire arrows at the enemy, preferably on a higher ground in order to achieve better momentum for their arrows. But as soon as the battle had ended, by the time they would come down from their positions in order to join their brothers, much of what was considered of high quality among the spoils of war would be grabbed by those who were at the front and who were on the ground. Similarly, those who were fortunate enough to possess armor, i.e. those who were rich because they had the means to actually buy armor, those people would typically stand at the front of the battle. Thus, they would be the ones who gained the largest portion of the spoils. Now this didn't seem fair for the Prophet, so he instituted a law which saw that the wealth that came in from the spoils of war would first be collected and gathered in one place, and from that place the Prophet would then proceed to divide the spoils of war among the groups mentioned in the verse. That which was for God and for his messenger funded the day-to-day operations and maintenance of the community, meaning that it functioned as the capital of the community. Another part was distributed among the relatives. Those are the ones that particularly remained behind, such as women, for example, or the handicapped, or those who were too old or too young to attend the battle. And this part was also shared among the orphans, the poor, and lastly, the wayfarer. That is the traveler, the person who is venturing through the city and they are going from one place to another. Those people would be entertained and given food and resources that they might need in order to continue on their journey. The remainder of the spoils were divided among the fighters, and to these the command was issued, which says, whatever the messenger has given you, or whatever the messenger gave you or gives you, take it. وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا, i.e., whatever the messenger has given you, take it, and whatever he prohibits you from, refrain from it. Thus, from this context, it becomes quite clear that the verse in question was actually referring to spoils of war, rather than a concept called Sunnah or Hadith. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for my next video. We are going to be continuing in this line of thought where I'm going to be presenting these different arguments and trying to counter-argue that these arguments do not have Quranic basis. So stay tuned for my following videos on this topic. If you have any follow-up questions to what I have presented in this video, then do please write them down below in the comments. I welcome all sorts of meaningful dialogues as long as they are not presented in a hostile manner, in a degrading manner, or in an abusive manner. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.